make mocha pot coffee one of the best ways. Now, one thing a lot of people do with mocha pot coffee is that they buy a mocha pot because they hear it's a good way to make espresso-like drinks at home, that it's fun, it's easy, they're not that expensive. Even good mocha pots are significantly less expensive than, say, a coffee machine. And so a lot of people buy one, they make a cup of coffee with it, they decide they don't like it, and they throw it away in the cupboard. And a lot of the times that's because they made mocha pot coffee the wrong way. And so I'm going to be showing you how to make it, as well as sharing some good tips and tricks to make it just a little bit better. Now, one thing a lot of people do wrong with their mocha pot is when they get their mocha pot, they will make a cup and they don't clean it out thoroughly when they're done. So you want to keep it extremely clean. You can see I've used this one dozens and dozens of times, and it's still very clean on the inside, as well as the filter's super clean, the gasket's super clean. You want it to be as clean as possible, because when you let stuff build up, not only does then it actually impair the brewing process, but then it also, that leftover coffee and mud and junk that you'll get that builds up on the inside, on the bottom there, that ends up actually making your coffee taste more bitter and significantly worse than if you keep it really clean. Another thing a lot of people do wrong is sometimes they will tamp the coffee when it's in the filter. They use it in some other ways that are just incorrect. I'll show you as I go along, showing you the right way to use mocha pot coffee. Now, there are a lot of different kinds of coffee you can use. Today we have the amazing Devil Dog, which is our gun barrel espresso blend, and it is a really good espresso to choose from. A common issue with espresso is that some people find it way too bitter, which again, through some of the brewing tips I'll show you, can make it less bitter. And Gun Barrel has the least bitter coffee I have found out of dozens of different espressos and dark roasts I've tried. Now, I have experimented making mocha pot with light roasts, medium, and dark, and espresso. There is some cool things you can get into with some of the more medium roasts. Light roasts don't work. There's so many better things you can do with a light roast than a mocha pot. An espresso or a dark roast is going to be your two best options. I opt for espresso. Now, one thing you want to do is you want to grind up your coffee. Now, I'm going to come over there and show you what this grind looks like, because that's another thing people mess up on their mocha pot a lot. I've used a small handheld Bodum grinder. This is probably the best hand grinder I've been able to find. You can get it at Target, Amazon. It's like 20 bucks, and it's an amazing option. One issue with these hand grinders, though, is that it's significantly harder to control your grind as compared to a burr grinder, which is probably the best, also the most expensive option, and compared to a hand grinder, which is more time consuming. So, as you can see, what a lot of people do is, you can tell by this, it's kind of at a sand type coarseness. A lot of people will use a true espresso grind in their coffee, where again you can see it's more sand-like, and that's an issue with this kind of mocha pot, because a mocha pot doesn't make you end up building up too much mud. It doesn't come out as full-bodied, the right texture, and it comes out too bitter if you grind it too fine. So you want something that more looks like sand as opposed to sawdust, like a true espresso grind. And so you're going to grind your coffee. Then you want to fill up the bottom of your mocha pot to just beneath the pressure valve, which is this little metal piece. You want to fill up just beneath there. And so I have the water for that. Now, the filter, this little basket that comes with your espresso maker, holds about 20 grams of coffee if you get kind of the more regular sized mocha pot. And what you want to do is you want to fill it all the way to the top and not spill it like I just did. And you want to fill it right to the top. You want to level it out. Now, what you don't want to do, for instance, if you ever use an espresso machine, you tamp the coffee, you really pressurize it, because in an espresso machine it uses like extremely pressurized pumped air to really put that water under pressure as it boils and goes through the coffee. That's why you tamp it, because it makes it super tight, fine grind of that coffee, and that extra pressure pushes it through and gets the most extraction people know how to get out of coffee with the least amount of water. Now this is kind of second tier to that as far as the pressure, so you don't want to tamp it down because it can't go through then. So once you have it evened out, you just want to set that to the side for now. Now I just sometimes will put it in the whatever container I use to hold the grinds, or I'll just set it up in a spot where it won't fall over. Then you want to take all the water that you have and you want to put it in a tea kettle. Now personally, I have used every type of kettle you can really think of. Gooseneck kettles are, if you're really into coffee, a worthwhile investment. However, it is not necessary. And you want to put your water on a just high heat. You want it to get boiling as fast as you can. And that is a huge mistake you see a lot of people make, is that they'll get their mocha pot, they'll fill it with water, and they'll heat the water in the mocha pot. So why don't you want to do that? Well, the main reason is that when you heat the water in the mocha pot, what happens is you'll have your filter of coffee right above that. And as that heat builds up, it heats up the coffee, which you don't want to have happen, because when you heat up the coffee, it gets way more bitter, way less tasteful, and it really ruins the coffee. And so a mocha pot is a great option for that, because it really heats up the coffee, which makes it way more bitter and taste way worse. And so you don't want that. Now, the cool thing about Moka Pot is that it does give you an espresso-like beverage. It was the original way people made espresso. I'm going to put a link to the masterclass espresso Moka Pot that I have. Now, it is a great Moka Pot. I like it a lot. Again, you can find them on Amazon, Target, Walmart. They're not crazy expensive. And so that's why I think it is such a worthwhile investment, because it's something that once you set your water boiling, you can just kind of go through until you get to the next step, fill out little parts of your morning as you go along, and it's a great budget way to make really good coffee. Because when you get things like a cheap coffee maker, it's not going to make good coffee no matter how good your beans are, because it doesn't make it properly, it doesn't brew it properly. And for me, that's an issue, because it just, even if I get really good coffee, like coffee from Gun Barrel or other, higher end coffees, because if I go and I spend $30 on a pound of coffee, it is a waste to me to then brew that in a regular coffee maker that just doesn't do it justice. And so a Moka Pot's a really good option if you like a really strong, bold flavor and you like espresso, especially during quarantine right now. If you usually go out and you like to get a latte or a cappuccino, this is a great way to make it at home. Actually, tomorrow there'll be a video released on how to make cappuccinos and lattes at home using a Moka Pot, because it is such a great option for that. And so make sure you stay tuned for that one. Now again, I'm using the Devil Dog. We also have other espresso blends at Gun Barrel. Check out our website for those. Now, as you can see, the water is starting to boil now. So it's starting to steam. You can hear it kind of start to hiss a little bit, and there's the whistle. So at this point, you take it off heat. It's really hot right now. It's almost to the point where it's going to start making coffee. So you pour it in, and again, it's going to be right underneath that valve line. Now, you take your cup, your filter, and you just pop it in. And one thing you're going to really want with you is you're going to make sure that you have a towel, because, fun fact, it's going to get really, really hot. And when it gets really, really hot, you're going to burn your hand if you try to just grab it like that. So you want to use a towel, grab it, take the top, and just screw it on. Now you want to screw it on really tight and really firm it, because again, this is using pressure to push the water through the grinds into the reservoir. So if you don't screw it on really tight, it's going to end up, one, you'll get water leaking out, and when you pour it, you'll spill all over the place, which you really don't want to do. Now, I am going to open this up because here's the other mistake a lot of people make. When they're making their mocha pot, they'll see it start to come out, it looks really pretty, and they'll let it go until it stops coming out. But you don't want to do that. What you want to do is, you can see it coming out now, and it looks really pretty, really full, and there's that coffee. And it is really cool to watch happen. And the big mistake a lot of people make is they let it wait too long in cooking. What you want to do is you want it to get to a spot where you'll start to hear it pop, and you'll see it pop with little parts of air coming out. And when that happens, you want to take it off the heat right away. You can see it's starting to get there, so I'm going to close it right now, because then it starts shooting coffee everywhere like you saw. Now we're going to listen. You can hear it start to pop a little bit, and you want to take it off the heat right then. And what you want to do is you're going to want to go over to your sink and run it underneath cold water. So I know you guys can't see this right now, but I'm just taking the coldest setting on our sink and running the bottom of it under cold water. And what this is going to do is it's going to completely stop the brew process. So now I just ran this under cold water, so it's done brewing. At which point you can see we will have a really amazing, beautiful, thick, coffee-like substance. Now, the thing with actual espresso is that it takes roughly, people debate whether it's 5 bars, 7 bars, it takes a lot of pressure to make real espresso. So it's something that you can't do with anything except really a true espresso maker. But to make espresso-based beverages at home, this is, in my opinion, the best option. I've tried it with French press, it's a little bit thicker. I personally think this is better than AeroPress. There's other options of things you can get, but those will cost you more towards $200 for something entry level that's somewhat adequate. A mocha pot is like $20, $25. It makes a really close second to espresso. And so we're going to take our cup, and you can see that this is just a beautiful, thick coffee. So I'm going to come over here, and you guys can just see that this is a lot thicker than your normal coffee. It's more espresso-like, and it makes a really beautiful beverage. Now, if you like espresso, this is a must. Share this with someone you know who likes espresso. Now, what we're going to do is I keep dropping stuff that's part of who I am and what I do. So what we're going to do is tomorrow we're going to have a video where I like mine black, but we're going to do a really cool video about how to make lattes and cappuccinos at home, so that if that's something you're into, if that's something you really miss about going out in the world, going to a coffee shop and getting, we're going to show you how to do it at home. It's going to be really cool, so make sure you stick around and come back to Gumbarrel's page to check out that tutorial tomorrow.